Alright boys, last week, Spanky spanked his way to a victory for us as we moved to 5-3 and we moved into playoffs. And the way playoffs worked is the first seed, second seed, third seed, and technically fourth seed got to choose their opponent. First seed got to choose between 5 and 8, and then second seed got to choose the leftovers. Third seed out of the last two, fourth seed got stuck with whoever was the last option. Mount was the 1 seed, and I called him out. I said, man, I want to play you, Mount. I want the run back. I've been talking to him a lot. I think he's a really cool guy. I consider him a friend, and I wanted the run back. Unfortunately, he did not want the smoke, and he did not pick us, which makes sense. I completely understand. He chose Brody, and we got stuck with the 2 seed, which is JBear. So it's actually a BBR Season 5 Finals rematch, which is great for views. You guys are going to eat it up, I sure hope. There's a couple of stipulations going into this match. First of all, I'm going to be completely honest. JBear has been talking the most about not only this matchup, but beating me and how I have no chance of winning, which is crazy to me because he says he beat me in finals. He can't lose to me, which is a dumb thing to say because we both played very, very poorly in the finals. He's been talking shit. I have receipts, and I want to beat him so unbelievably bad. And it's going to be so sweet when we do, because going into this game, not only did we barely make playoffs, not only is he the 2 seed, but he chose us to play. So there is very little riding on our shoulders going into this matchup, and there is everything riding on his shoulders. If I lose this match, oh, John was the 7th seed, that is what it is. If JBear loses, he chose his opponent. He handpicked me, and he will never hear the end of this. So we're going in, heads held high. I want to smoke JBear, I'll be completely honest. I want this win very, very bad. To be honest with you guys, there's 2 reasons in my perception that he chose us. The first of which, he has Iron Bundle. We don't have an Iron Bundle resist. Our resist is Quagsire, which obviously gets sent sideways by Freeze Dry. It makes sense that he chose us in that capacity. The second reason that I know that he chose us is because he knows that I don't have as much time as I used to. I just had a kid, and it's been really hard to prep for 2 leagues at once, and going into the future, probably not going to do 2 leagues at once. And he knows that. And he wanted, I perceive it as he wants me with less time. So when I beat him, it's gonna be so unbelievably sweet, boys. Playoff Jimmy is back, you already know. I prepped this team this morning, about 2.5, 3 hours, a good amount of time for this team. And I'll be honest, I don't think that the matchup is in anybody's favor heavily. I think he has 2 Pokemon that do really well. One really well no matter what team we bring, another that does really well into this particular team that we're bringing. And then we have a couple of Pokemon on our end that do super well. I would give it about like a 45-55, a 60-40, because I think Bundle is very overwhelming with the fact that it could Terra Water. But I think other than that, we have a good fighting chance to win this game. His team consists of Tornadus, Therian, Iron Bundle, which is going to be Terra Water and Electric pretty much always in this matchup. Gonna be Terra Water. I actually never see him ever bring Terra Electric. It really just simply doesn't make sense. He has the Scizor, there's a Rude, the Enam T, the Andy Shocks, Gallade, Blissey, Quillfish, and Mismagius. So on matchup, I think that he could bring literally every single Pokemon, except I don't think Quillfish makes the most sense. I think Annihilape, yeah, he can intimidate us, but we have the access to Defiant. He can taunt us, but we can push past it with just simply Rage Fisting. He can Toxic us, but we can rest on it. It doesn't really switch into Chi-Yu. He has a much better Chi-Yu switching in Blissey, and Glowking can push past it. Our 4 best Pokemon can absolutely push past it. The only reason he would ever bring Quillfish is if he is horrified of Weavile, which he really shouldn't be as long as he decides to bring Scizor. So other than Quillfish, I do expect potentially every single other Pokemon to have been thought about on this build. And I'll be honest, man, for our build, I did think about literally every single Pokemon. At first, I wrote a very particular Pokemon off. I was like, okay, Annihilape, Glowking, Zapdos, we're bringing the regulars. Quagsire blows here, Brambleghast blows here. But I ran through a lot of different sets. Shout out to Obo, he helped me run through some different scenarios this morning. And I ran through every single Pokemon's possibility, different sets in this matchup. And I came to a conclusion that we have a pretty decent team in this matchup. As far as the Pokemon that I think he is guaranteed gonna bring, Iron Bundle is gonna come no matter what. That's number 1. That should be the first Pokemon on his team builder. It should be Terra Water. It could be Choice Specs, it could be Boots, but it should be Terra Water, Flip Turn, Hydro, Terra Blast, Freeze Dry, or instead of Terra Blast, if he is not worried about the miss, he could also be Ice Beam. Specs makes the most sense to me, but I think Boots also makes a lot of sense. I think either of those sets could definitely come. I don't really see Booster coming because in this situation, he'd have to be Booster Speed, and Booster Speed doesn't really help with anything. My speed tiers are very, very poor ever since I dropped Walking Wake. There was an opportunity that if I was Walking Wake, maybe he was Booster Speed to outpace a potential Walking Wake. I'm not even sure how that works, but because we traded that for Chi-Yu, unfortunately, Iron Bundle in-game here gets a whole lot more steady. And this was one of the matchups that I wish I had Torkoal Wake for instead of Chi-Yu, unfortunately. So Iron Bundle was guaranteed coming. I think the next Pokemon that guaranteed comes, I think Andy Shocks for sure comes. Our removal is not very good. I think Andy Shocks is a very good lead into us. It's speed tier, outspeeds anything that's not named Weavile, and it has things like Power Gym for Zapdos, dual stabs, obviously. It's a good Volt turn Pokemon. And then I think the third Pokemon that is the most likely to come in my mind is actually Blissey. Blissey is such a fantastic check to Chi-Yu. It pretty much forces our hand to be Taunt Ruination in this matchup, which is a little tough. As you can see, our speed tier, we get outsped by 5 different Pokemon, and it's really tough to bring Chi-Yu. I'll talk about it once we get to our team a little bit more, but I think Blissey comes guaranteed for that. I think the other Pokemon, Tornadus probably comes because it's a Tornadus. It'd be kind of silly not to bring it. It doesn't really have a good matchup, so if it doesn't come, I'm not going to be like, no Tornadus, but I would think that just because of its speed tier and how good of a pivot it can potentially be, I think Tornadus comes. As for the set, I'm not entirely sure. He has to be U-turn, and I'm almost positive he has to be Air Slash, because if he is not, he gets completely walled by Brambleghast. Because for some reason, Wind Rider blocks Hurricane and Bleak Wind, but not Air Slash, which I think is super silly. And then I think Zarude and Enamorous Therian are going to round out the team. I think Gallade and MrMag and Scizor could 100% come. Don't get me wrong. Scizor specifically is the Pokemon that I'm the most scared of with the current build that we have, but with our team overall, I think it would make 100% sense for Scizor not to come. The set that I'm the most scared of on Scizor with the team that we are bringing is going to be Swords Dance, Acro, Thief, and Bullet Punch. That set actually might just win if he brings that Pokemon. If he doesn't bring Scizor and he brings the 6 Pokemon that I anticipate him to bring, Tauren, Bundle, Zarude, ENAMT, Sandy Shocks, and Blissey, of course, you know, there could be Gallade, there could be MrMag. I'm not counting either of those 2 out, then I think we have a pretty decent chance to win this game. As far as Zarude and Enam, I think Zarude or Scizor, both of those Pokemon actually have to be protective pads if they come in this matchup. Enamorous Therian, I'm not really sure. Probably just a Boots Rest Talk set potentially, or even a Double Dance set if he thinks that he can get that past me. Gallade, if it comes, is probably going to be Scarf. I don't really see another set for it in this matchup. Maybe a Swords Dance Endure Salackberry. I think that actually has some viability here, but I'm not entirely sure because we do have, you know, Grimmsnarl, we have T-Wave potential, and then MrMag, like, it could come to block Spin, but I have Deep Fog on Decidueye as well. I have 3 Dark types, so I think MrMag is the second least likely Pokemon to come, but I'm not counting it out by any means. Also, there are 4 Pokemon that get Brick Break in this matchup: Tornadus, Scizor, Zarude, and Gallade. I'm expecting Brick Break on at least 2 of them. Maybe the Tauren, maybe the Zarude is what I'm thinking. But if he brings the Scizor's Brick Break on the Scizor, makes a lot of sense as well, because Grimmsnarl doesn't really threaten it too much. We have access to Fire Punch, but we're pretty much never going to want to stay in on that Pokemon. So I think the possibility on those 3 Pokemon makes a lot of sense. If he brings Gallade, maybe we see Brick Break, but I think it's more Dual Stab, Leaf Blade, last move. As far as the team that we're bringing, like I said, I ran through so many different sets and I couldn't find a win con that I loved. We have actually no setup win con this week. Well, we do, but I'll talk about it in a minute. It's not a win con, it's a lead. But we have no setup win con this week because our first Pokemon, Spanky, does really bad with bulk up in this matchup. He has Taunt on Tauren, Zarude, Iron Bundle, and of course Enamorous Therian, and even I think Gallade might get Taunt, and Quillfish. So there's 6 Pokemon. MrMag actually might get Taunt as well. There's 7 Pokemon. Yeah, there's 7 Pokemon in this matchup that get Taunt, 5 of which are faster than me, so I really almost never see myself being able to get both a bulk up and a rest stop. So we opted for a Rusto Chesto set, and we're just an offensive variant. Rage Fist, Close Combat, last move, Gunk Shot. I am Gunk Shot because on the potential Zarude, if we switch this in and we attack on Zarude, the switch in is probably going to be the Enamorous Therian on the fighting move. Gunk Shot allows us to 2-hit KO an ENAMT on switching. It also is just good coverage for the Enamorous in general. I also debated Fire Punch, but Close Combat has a chance to 2-hit KO a max HP Scizor regardless. And then Rage Fist is obviously just broken. The whole idea with this Annihilape is we're going to play it how Annihilape is meant to be played. We're going to try to rack up our Rage Fist, get it to as high of a base power as we can possibly get it to. We can rest on potential things like the Blissey. We can Terra, we can take a hit on the Enamorous Therian. We can rest on even a Sandy Shocks if we're not Terra, a Scizor if we are Terra. So we have to also keep in mind our Terra, which I did not mention. We are Terra Water. We are Terra Water this week. I think it's a very obvious bring. I don't think Terra Fairy makes much sense at all. It doesn't help us defensively with really anything except potentially Gallade, but Psycho Cut probably is going to be the move that he clicks on us regardless there. And it allows us to resist the Iron Bundle Hydros. Yes, we're weak to Freeze Dry. Yes, he could be Terra Electric. I really doubt it though. We are weak to Freeze Dry, but we're able to take 2 of those pretty well. Speed Tier works out really well to where we will never outspeed the top 5 fast Pokemon, but the bottom 6, excuse me, we should outspeed most of the time depending on what sets he ends up bringing. We are 144 HP, 12 attack, adamant, 52 in our defense, 244 special defense, and 56 speed. This allows us to live a Specs Hydro from the bundle, a guaranteed 2-hit KO after Stealth Rocks, and we can outspeed a max speed adamant Scizor. We live 2 crunches from a potential Zarude that's not banded, and then we put the rest into attack adamant. Annihilape could be the in-game that we work for. I really just want Annihilape to trade 1 for 1. That's kind of the whole idea going into this game. I know Spanky's been going crazy this season, guys, but there's not really a Spanky set that works super well in this matchup. I thought about a couple of different things. I thought about Sub Protect, Rage Fist, and Drain Punch. I thought about Encore Taunt. I thought about Stealth Rock U-Turn. And pretty much in all of these scenarios, the last 2 moves were Rage Fist in either close combat or Drain Punch, but ultimately I think getting a 1 singular rest off is very plausible into this team. I don't think bulking up on anything is super possible. Only thing that it makes it super likely to bulk up on is Scizor, but that can just U-turn out into like Torn that gets Taunt, or a Bundle to freeze dry us. So I think this is probably the best Annihilape set in the matchup. I also debated on Scarf, but you'll see I have a different Scarfer in mind, and I didn't really love locking into a move with the combination of something like Blissey MidPokeMaster that could be there, or the combination of something like Blissey Enamorus. The next Pokemon is unfortunately as bland as they come, but it is a no-brainer in this matchup. We are AV Glowking with Regenerator, and we are Psyshock, Future Sight, Sludge Bomb, and Flamethrower. We are maxed with Def AV, and this is as basic as they come, but this allows us to live 2 Hydro Pumps from the Terra Specs Iron Bundle. This is the only Pokemon that's not named Quagsire, that doesn't have screens on the team, that can live those 2 hits accordingly, other than maybe an Assault Vest Bronzong, but if we're AV Bronzong, man, it doesn't do any damage at all. Psyshock to hit the Blissey, Future Sight to make uncomfortable switches onto the Scizor, onto the Zarude, both of which we have Flamethrower for, and then Sludge Bomb is just good stab in this game into the Bundle, into the Torn, into the Enam, even getting a Poison on a potential Blissey. Yeah, he can kind of absorb it with a natural cure, but Sludge Bomb into Psyshock is going to be really nice on that Pokemon. Glowking is super annoying for our opponent to deal with, very uncomfortable. Obviously, Terra Water Flip Turn is very obvious. Like, this is why I think Specs, because he can just Terra Water Flip Turn on our Glowking. We do Regenerator it off, but if he gets Hazards up, which is very possible with what I anticipate to be the lead Andy Shocks, it could get a little bit annoying to try to Regenerator that off. Glowking is just here to be a Spadef Wall, things like Torn, things like Bundle. We don't really get broken by those, even the Sandy Shocks. If he's not booster special attack, we can take 3 hits from the Sandy Shocks, or damn near, depending on the rolls. So the whole idea with this Pokemon, though, is it is the only check on our team to Iron Bundle. And again, that's one of the reasons why I think JBear picked us. We have a really poor Iron Bundle matchup. I think he saw that, and I think that's one of the reasons why he was like, hey, he only has Glowking. And this set is so predictable, it's going to be very obvious that we're bringing that, but it is what it is, man. We can't do too much about it. Our next Pokemon is going to be our guaranteed lead, assuming we see Sandy Shocks, and it is going to be Focus Sash lead Weavile with Swords Dance, Ice Spinner, Night Slash, and Trailblaze. If both Scizor and Quillfish don't come, there is a possibility that off lead we can win with this Pokemon. If he leads, the whole idea here, right? We lead Weavile, he leads Sandy Shocks because he should value rocks or spikes very, very heavily in this matchup. He gets up rocks or spikes turn 1, whatever the case may be. We assume he's booster speed. I Trailblaze, I still have my Sash intact, I Swords Dance, I'm +2/+1, and I just go in, do as much damage as I can. The faults with this are Scizor and Quillfish. Those 2 Pokemon stop that, right? And also, Iron Bundle does not get O-Code by a Night Slash, unfortunately. But getting damage on that Pokemon is going to be a lot more important than having our Weavile in the back. But if he doesn't, for whatever reason, lead Andy Shocks, we're probably going to switch the Weavile out. We're going to preserve our Weavile, and we're going to go into something else. And we're going to save this in the back because we will have some form of removal, either Decidueye or Brambleghast, on the rest of the team. And this Pokemon outspeeds and pressures an Oko on Tornadus, on Zarude, on even Enamorus. And it does really well in the matchup if Scizor and Quillfish aren't brought. I think he might bring one of them just to be a defensive check to not completely lose to Weavile, because I've shown a tendency to love bringing Weavile this season. But if he doesn't, this Weavile set goes crazy. We are just 32 HP, max attack, 224 speed, enough speed to outspeed Torn, max attack, rest into HP. And we'll also pickpocket, because if our Sash gets broken, we can potentially steal an item or something. I don't really know. This is not our in-game. It can be if everything goes right. If he doesn't bring Scizor and Quillfish, there's a possibility we win off lead, right? If we get a crit with Night Slash on the Iron Bundle. But ideally, this is here to kill Sandy Shocks and then almost take something else down with it. If Scizor's brought, we will probably just hard switch to the Zapdos, though. Speaking of Zapdos, that is going to be our next Pokemon, and Zapdos weirdly enough, is going to be our in-game here. I debated back and forth a long time between this set and just a bulky heavy-duty boot set, but the speed tier, getting pressured by Iron Bundle, just made me really not like having a bulky Zapdos in this matchup. So we are going to be Choice Scarf. We are still going to be static to punish a non-pads on Zarude and Scizor. We're going to be U-turn just in case he's not leading Andy Shocks. And then Thunderbolt, Hurricane, and Heat Wave. He does not have great electric resist on his team. It is quite simply Bundle and Tornadus get blown back by Thunderbolt. Zarude resist it. The Andy Shocks resist it obviously, and Blissey can be very annoying. Ideally, we can break Blissey to get Zapdos in a position to win this game with Thunderbolt, Hurricane, and Heat Wave, or we can grab momentum. We can keep rocks off the field and grab momentum initially. That is why I want to do the Weavile lead to pressure an Andy Shocks to not get the Stealth Rock up immediately. We can outspeed a potential Gallade because if there's a Scarfer, it's probably going to be Gallade. We live 2 crunches from the Zarude just in case he is Scarf on that Pokemon, and then we went the rest into Special Attack Modest. This set, it's very uncomfortable because this is a very hyper offensive team, very obviously a hyper offensive team, right? And this set is very uncomfortable for me because I'm very used to bringing these bulky Zapdoses that are here to check this, check that, which Zapdos still does a fantastic job checking Torn, Scizor, and Zarude, and even potentially offensively checking Enamorous Therian, as well as even Iron Bundle. His top 5 Pokemon do not like this Pokemon. However, Andy Shocks and Blissey specifically give me a tough time, so I'm gonna have to be really careful with how I play this Zapdos. And the whole name of the game, guys, is gonna be positioning in this matchup. Our last 2 Pokemon, I debated between a ton of different options. I literally ran through every single one of our last Pokemon available. Quagsire was the first one out because the one thing I wanted him to do was be a water absorb Pokemon for Bundle, but if he just simply freeze dried once, we lost Quagsire, and it was very, very silly. So we didn't do that. I almost had Bronzong in the slot, but I decided Bronzong just doesn't do enough damage. I almost brought Trick Room Bronzong and then was more of a specially offensive Slowking to take advantage of that, but I couldn't do that because of Terra Water Bundle. We get 2 KO'd by pretty much any variant if we're not max. So I was like, okay, no Bronzong, even though I heavily value rocks, no Bronzong. I almost did Decidueye Hisui, but unfortunately both Zarude and Scizor get access to Acro and Aerial Ace. I think both of them get both, so the things that Decidueye wants to check, we don't check, so I didn't bring that. And you know what 2 mons would be fantastic in these last 2 slots? Walking Awake and Torkoal, unfortunately. Instead, we're going to bring Grimmsnarl. We're going to be Reflect Light Screen with Light Clay. I was initially Taunt over Reflect to taunt the potential Blissey, and that still might have been a better choice, but I like Reflect a lot because I got very scared of that Scizor set as well as Gallade not really being something that I can switch into. Zarude is still a little annoying, but I'm a little bit less scared of Zarude than the aforementioned Pokemon. And then Light Screen because most of his team is special, and this allows us to take hits a lot better from the Iron Bundle. Thunder Wave is super difficult for his team to deal with. He doesn't have things that he wants to get paralyzed. He can switch in Blissey, and that is literally it, and Blissey does not like taking our Spirit Break. And we're Light Clay. I do believe he will be Brick Break on certain things, and I debated going Leftovers, but I think Light Clay is going to be crucial potentially in the in-game, or if he for some reason doesn't have any Brick Breakers. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but Scizor can also just simply be defog. We are 248 HP, 24 attack, 40 defense, and 196 special defense with a careful nature. We can live a Zarude Power Whip after 2 layers of rocks, so from 75%. We can Oko the Gallade, and then we went the rest into special defense since most of his scary Pokemon are gonna be special. And then lastly, I hate that we're doing this in a win or go home. We're bringing the Brambleghast, and we're bringing Brambleghast because I value it a little bit more than Decidueye in this matchup, because not only does Decidueye get OHKO'd by Zarude or Scizor, who are prepared for our Decidueye, but we also have Spike potential. And I really like hazards into JBear's team. It punishes a potential Scizor switch in, because I really don't think you can beat Boots, and it also provides us Rapid Spin at the same time. So I like it a little bit better. We can also wall a Tornadus that's not prepared for us, and I think he is going to be Air Slash, so I'm not banking on the fact that we are going to wall him. But if he is ill prepared and he's just Bleak Wind Hurricane, Taunt, U-turn, or something like that, we should wall that Pokemon. We are 248 HP, 100 attack, adamant, 68 defense, and 92 special defense. We can take 2 hits from the non-banded Scizor. We can live a bundle freeze dry if he's not specced, and then we went the rest into attack, adamant. And I decided to go Power Whip over Shadow Sneak because I'll be honest, Shadow Sneak is pretty piss weak, man. It could help in certain niche scenarios against the Iron Bundle, but if he's locked into Hydro and we are the last mon standing and we're Shadow Sneak, we lose the game. That specific situation and that specific interaction made me go Power Whip over Shadow Sneak. And that is going to be the team, guys. Like I said, I'm not too fond of the matchup, but I think that we could pull it out. It's like 40-60, I think, in JBear's favor, so it's not that bad. I think we do have a team to definitely bring it. Hopefully we catch him off guard turn 1 with our Weavile. Hopefully our Annihilape can put in some work. Hopefully Spanky can keep taking us to this championship, and Zapdos will catch the Iron Bundle or the Tornadus or both off guard. We need to keep hazards off the field. We need to lead Weavile. We need there to be no coefficient scissor for that to happen. And we need to get things in range of our Zapdos. Killing the Blissey is going to be crucial if we do want to win this game, and we got to keep all that in mind, man, as we go into BBR playoffs round 1 on Saturday. Thank you guys so much for watching this team builder. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to check out JBear and all of the other BBR coaches down in the description below. And for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off.